Hello everyone, this is Australian Motorcycle News, Peter Bom, Australian Motorcycle News, reporting about what happened today on Friday, this little Friday update about the MotoGP action on the Brno MotoGP racetrack. A lot happened today, especially like always is the case when it's a new track and when it's also wet, because the track is not completely new, it has it's newly resurfaced. And it's been 5 years ago we were here the last time, so in a way it is new for everybody, and it was mostly wet. I assume you guys have seen the action from today. Just in case you missed it, a little summary. We started on a wet track that was drying quickly this morning in the free practice session, and towards the end of the session the riders could go out on slicks and do really good lap time. I think on a drying track they were already under the lap record, but if you resurface a track, especially this track, because one of the reasons we were not here for the last couple of years was it was just too bumpy. It was a motocross track, but they resurfaced it. It's pretty flat now and it's a super wide track, so fast and wide, not so easy to learn on a MotoGP bike, on any bike, especially on a MotoGP bike, but everybody is happy to be back on this track because it's a proper motorbike racetrack. It's not made for cars. Cars can ride there, but bikes are the most fun. But it was a rainy Friday, so this morning was quite okay in the end. Obviously, like it is when you start the wet session and it gets drier and drier, somebody will put in slicks and be faster than everybody else, and that's, as usual, that's Jack Miller, and he did it again. He was the first to go to the slicks, testing the waters and then showing everybody, yep, red sectors, okay, it's time to put on the slicks. But yeah, he did a really good job with that. The afternoon was another session that was so wet it couldn't start. They had to delay the start because there was just too much water over some parts of the tracks. It was impossible. Even the safety car was in all sorts of problems. But in the end, we went riding in the rain. But it was a drying track. It stopped raining, but all session long we needed rain tires. Now with the rain tires you have soft and medium, front and rear, and when you're not sure you always go for the softs, but there usually is a point that it's getting pretty dry, and then the grip gets better and you destroy your softs and you have to go to the medium. But this turning point is always not so easy to find, and you have to find the sweet spot to do that. And today there was never a good moment during the whole practice session from the afternoon that it was the best idea to go from the soft to the medium. Some people tried it, but it wasn't really working. What was funny today on this track, and I had it many years ago as a crew chief one time in Austin, I think it was, when it was a wet track, and my rider was pretty fast. And at some point he came in and he said, there's no point in going out anymore because it's drying, it gets faster. But during the drying, it first gets a little bit more slippery, and after that, it's possible to go really fast. So we had the same situation here. All the riders who did a really good lap time during the afternoon session did it more or less between lap 10 and 15 from the total 20 laps they did. That was the best moment that the track was drying and the soft rain tires were working still very good. After that, the soft was starting to slide and the medium was not working yet. So only Marco Bezzecchi, which is a testimony for him and for the Aprilia, did his best lap in the end. Quite late he did his best lap. So the results, just in case you haven't seen it, obviously Marc Marquez was fastest from the Friday. Not only this morning, but more importantly this afternoon, because this afternoon is deciding Q1, Q2, as we all know. Second place this afternoon went to Johan Zarco. Not a surprise. Look at the conditions. It's a new track, but especially it's wet and it's drying. Johan Zarco is a master. There is a reason he won Le Mans. Third place goes to Fabio Quartararo, where honestly I'm not even surprised anymore. I rate him even in the dry to be on the front row. That Yamaha is not so bad for this track where you need to have flow. But when there is a grip, I mean, the grip's never great in the wet, but even in the wet you have tracks that are super slippery and tracks that are quite grippy. Sachsenring is very grippy in the wet. I think this track too, Brno, is quite grippy in the wet. And Fabio just does everything correctly. In the right moment on the track, pushing on the right moment. Third place. Fourth place goes to Marco Bezzecchi on the Aprilia, crashed in the morning, crashed in the afternoon, and then really late did still a really good lap time. Like I said, testimony for the Aprilia, testimony for the steps that Marco Bezzecchi has made, because until Now, I still don't rate him as a special rider. Not like Marc Marquez, Fabio Quartararo, Jorge Martin. But he's growing in his role. And having said the name of Jorge Martin, he is 5th today. He was 17 in the morning, could have been even better, but he had track limits out of turn 14 during his 2 fastest laps. He was constantly this morning in the wet and in the dry from the morning, in the top 4, top 5, top 6. Only when everybody started to do the extra lap time, he did it as well, but he was not. He was on the green 2 times, so that lap got cancelled. So that was like, wow, he's back. And then this afternoon, only in the wet, he was all the time. When he was on the track, he was fast. When he was on track, he was fast again. So P5 for a guy that was not for months on the... I think he doesn't even have 100 laps in total on the Aprilia this year because of all the shit that happens with him, especially with him all the time. But it's a super good way to come back this Friday for Jorge Martin. He still can't believe his luck, I think. Tomorrow we have a dry day, quite likely a dry day. Then you will start to really have to adapt to the Aprilia, because riding in the wet, even though he's super fit by now, you don't need to have the quick force actions. You need to be quick, but you don't need a lot of force. If there's no grip, you don't need force on a motorbike. Although he's fit, there is nothing like riding a MotoGP bike. So tomorrow is another test for him. P6 we had Jack Miller, because he loves these conditions and the Yamaha is quite good. Fabio Quartararo showed it, so Jack was steadily all the time by the top riders, so no surprise he's there. And he's doing himself a great favor, because we all know there's a race inside Yamaha Pramac for that seat. P7 Johan Mir on the Honda, quite good as well. Again, P9 Enea Bastian. You need a guy we didn't even expect to turn up, because he was sick all last weekend at the Sachsenring. He lost more than 3 kilos of weight. But he feels okay. He's weak, but he feels okay. And like I said, you don't need force in the rain. So he can ride the KTM on his own natural style, and then he's fast in the wet. If he's also fast in the dry, I doubt it. He still has a lot to prove, because he has to change his attitude on how he wants to ride the bike. You cannot wait for the bike to come to you. At some point you have to come to the bike. And Bastianini struggles quite a lot this year with KTM to adapt himself to that bike. But now he is in the top 10. P9 we have Alex Marquez, and P10 Pedro Acosta. This means every manufacturer has 2 bikes in the top 10. Well, sounds really honest. In a way it is. It's good. Tomorrow we have a new situation, but it shows there is more possible, and sometimes the difference between the bikes looks more than they are really. But we have to also speak a little bit about Alex Marquez in P9, because you know, he still has his broken bone in his hand, so he has to take it careful. He's very afraid to crash again, and today was so easy to crash. So he didn't do so many laps, he was careful, but yeah, in the end of the Friday you have to put the hammer down and be in the top 10, and he was not. And then he crashed. He crashed exactly in turn 7. He was not red, but he was on a good lap, crashed in P7, and with only minutes to go in this pre-qualifying session. And by now you have all seen the videos, because social media is all over that video, that how he came back and how he did it. And so the short story is he grabbed the scooter, came somehow quickly back to the paddock, and as you can see in the video, he arrives on the paddock with his scooter, throws it at somebody that's accidentally waiting there. He runs in the pit box, goes through the wall in the pit box, doesn't even look to his seat, doesn't even look to his crew chief. He ran straight to the front of the pit box, where his bike is waiting for him with a running engine. He jumps on it and goes away. And that gave him the opportunity to do 1 flying lap, which was just good enough, because it put him in P9. It looked like it was orchestrated. It was tested 5 or 10 times to make it immediately so working. It was not. It was just happening. And the only reason I can explain this beautiful thing to happen, that the mechanics were clever enough to warm up the bike and make sure when he comes he's there, and that when he arrived in the box he didn't even look left or right. He knew the bike's there for me, it's waiting. As long as I'm in time, the bike's already there, my second bike. So, you know, him and the team have gelled pretty well. They know each other without speaking, so really good to see something as spectacular as that, and very well deserved for him. So Jorge Martin, Marquez, I'm checking my notes now. Yeah, Obviously, he was fastest in the morning. Obviously, he was faster this afternoon. But tomorrow will be a new challenge. But he is just the fastest because he loves this kind of conditions. Johan Zarco second. I love it. He's smart. He's very, very smart. He knows when to put what tire, what pressure on, who to follow, when not to follow. So not surprised he's there, but still a huge respect because it's not the young. I think he turned 34 this week. But he's in a sweet moment between all his experience that he gathered and still he has the drive, the determination and the reflexes to make it work. So lovely to see that. Pecco in P13 is not so lovely to see because if you're the world champion, twice world champion in the last 3 years, you're in the official team of Ducati, you can't finish P13. You can every now and then, and Pecco has a bit of a reputation. Even in his world championship winning years, he sometimes had a difficult or a very difficult Friday. He always came back on Saturday, but there are not a lot of excuses. If 5 meters from you in the same pit box, the guy puts everybody on a second if he wants. And I mean, that guy is Marc Marquez, but you can at least, he should finish second or third, let's be honest. That's his position usually, but he is in a bit of a hole in confidence now. And the thing with riding in the wet is, it is killing in the way that you are forced to be smooth, but forced, because if you're only smooth, then you're slow, and then your tires don't get up to temperature, and you can't get anywhere in the lap time wise. So you got to be smooth, but still fast. You have to put in deformation in the tire enough to make it heat up, really heat up. It's not just a tire warmer heater, but to really warm up the carcass. You have to push, but at the same time, if you push in an aggressive way, you lose it immediately in the wet. So you got to be smooth, but still push it. And it's such a fine limit. It's usually a very, very good example of somebody's confidence, how good he is in the wet. If you don't, I mean, you can play a little bit with yourself and telling yourself you have confidence, but don't really have it. In the dry, you can play a little bit, in the wet, not. If you get out of pit lane and you have this fast kink, you start to brake hard for turn 3, you brake early. You're too early on the inside, your tires don't get to temperature. The right hand still doesn't feel so nice. This right hander doesn't feel so nice. It just never comes. The front not, the rear not. So you got to be smooth. By looking far ahead, make all your actions smooth, but in time. But there is an amount of like trust that you just put it there. You put the trust there. I know it's going to happen. This is how it should be done. But that's against all your fear. So it's really a confidence thing. Jack Miller has that automatically. He doesn't even decide it. He just have it. And Pecco at the moment just does not have it, which we all can understand because he's supposed to fight for the World Championship with Marc Marquez and he is in P3 and he always finishes P3 if he finishes behind Marc and behind Marc's brother, who is accidentally on Pecco's bike from last year. So it's a shit situation to be in. Who else to speak about? Alex Marquez, I explained to you. Ayogura had a nasty crash coming into turn 3 this morning. Nasty crash because, I mean, you can crash everywhere. What made this crash nasty is that it was going into turn 3, so he was still on the brakes, shifting down, turning in, and the rear came wide, then gripped him and sent him forwards, and the bike started to tumble after him. I think in the gravel trap the bike even hit him at some point. And the thing with these crashes is, they're usually not your fault. You brake as late as you can, you shift down, you turn in, and then it's in the hands of the engineers who programmed your engine brake. How much the engine brake is allowed to stop the engine or to let it free. If the engine brake doesn't brake enough, the rear doesn't help you, you go wide. If it does too much, the rear goes very, very loose. And in this moment it went loose at the wrong moment, so it completely went backwards and hit him off. Why I'm explaining this? Because it looks so much like what happened in Silverstone with Ayogura on Friday as well, where he went into one of very, very fast left-hander and on the entry already lost the rear. There was also a huge crash. So poor Ayogura, twice at least this year, is caught out by what is probably not so much his fault, but more just an engine brake that's not settled yet. Well, in this case, his engineers are also a little bit forgiven because they don't know, they didn't test here before. So they come to a new track, what is for them a new track, and it's immediately wet. So engine brake, traction control settings, all are a little bit like this. And riders are asked to go out, have a feel for it, trim it a little bit, and then come back with your commands, and we adjust it for you. Well, he didn't make it back to the pit box, not with that bike. Yeah, Australian riders. We had Joel Kelso in a 7th place at the end of the day. We had Jacob Roulstone in an 11th place, and we had Senna Aegis in P5 means. All the Aussies go to Q2, including Jack Miller. Congratulations on that. And that was it. That was my little summary from the Friday. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you again tomorrow. Bye and thanks everyone. And now I'm gonna walk around the table and switch it off myself.